Right about now, you are listening to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast.
Lyric are us.
Happier.
Still to be happy about.
You're up too old.
Job's not finished.
Legacy is what you leave behind. Leadership is how you are defined. Tomorrow, I don't know the sun gon' shine. So today, I'm trying to replenish my mind.
Legacy, leader, yeah. Legacy, leaders, yeah. Legacy, leaders, yeah. Legacy.
Legacy leaders, yes. This is Coach Jimmy G Jr. along with my homeboy Devon Watts Jr.
You're
coming at you for another episode of Cold Brews and Convos. Cheers. My friend has already finished his glass. Cold Brews and Convos live with the L3G coaches, presented to you by the Legacy Leadership Learning Group. Again, cheers.
Cheers, man. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like today, my body was just like, nah, man, you can't even wait till the 8 o'clock. Like, you got to start guzzling this like right now. I was about to mainline it actually. I just inject it right into the veins, cold brew, get myself going.
See, we have a couple of legacy leaders on with us. As always, love the intro song. Go ahead and click within the post itself. There's a little link at the bottom that says stream. Y'all go ahead and click on that if you would be so inclined, so that, we can see your name for our Facebook users out there. Love the intro. We do as well. It might be Rico.
If it is Rico, I mean, it's still well deserved, man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Every time I hear it, I get hype. I'm like, man, I wonder if Rico have me on a remix one day.
As well, for our legacy leaders out there, again, give us a hashtag Team Live. If you are live with us, if you are catching the replay, then go ahead and hit hashtag Team Replay. Oh, it's my sister. Yes.
Hey.
Selena Winters. What's up, baby girl? So I'd love to have the our legacy leaders with us this evening. I'm hyped. Today's just been a really, really good day. And we are continuing on this journey. Had a couple of speaking engagements earlier today, and I still have more room to run my mouth a little bit and share hopefully some wisdom and drop some more golden nuggets again with my good friend Devon as we give you this live episode of our Legacy and Leadership podcast. But again, we're very happy. For most of you that have been following us, you know that we started our journey and co-founded the Legacy Leadership Learning Group in December and have been working on a couple of different things. Really, the first milestone was completing our online e-learning course, which is Focus for Success. If you haven't done so yet and check that out, please do so. You could always enroll at bit.ly / Focus for Success course. Yes. So if you're ready to get more out of your 24, again, join us in the Focus for Success course, mainly for anybody, again, who is trying to get that laser-like focus and achieve their goals for 2021, but especially entrepreneurs out there, small business owners, like we're gunning for you.
No, absolutely.
To speak to your heart and to your spirit, because we appreciate you, especially our creative entrepreneurs out there. We appreciate what you do, the passion that you have, that you live with, to start a business, to run a business, and to get after it and serve your clients and your customers. So,
well, absolutely, man. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, we practice what we preach, right? So if you want to find out how we're managing to get more out of our 24 between families and outside commitments, committees, and then also building this business and building this brand, speaking engagements, like all of those things, like we share those things in the course, in the Focus for Success course. And I love the fact that you call out that we are really trying to connect with entrepreneurs and people who are hustling, and maybe you're building a business while you're still working another job, or maybe you're full-time committed to your grind and your hustle and you're trying to build something from nothing. Like those are the individuals that we want to support and to be able to serve, because we know we know that you normally don't have access, especially when you're starting off. You don't have access to these type of resources, right? You don't have access to these type of resources. And so we want to be a vehicle for you to be able to get that world-class learning experience, development, leadership experience, right? Early on, so you can start off your business on a very, very strong foundation. So matter of fact, in our most recent episode of Legacy and Leadership Podcast, we spent some time on our MBA episode talking to Shannon Martin, who's the director of communications for Podbean. And in our conversation for part one, because there are two parts, but for part one, which just dropped today, we get to hear her story and really understand how her motivation is also, serving, communicating, and connecting with small businesses, and how those small business, those entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the community, right? And so if you haven't checked that out, please make sure that you do so. It's just awesome to hear, kind of hear her experiences from traveling the world and, being in this remote workspace for many, many years now. So she's a vet to the game. She provides some tips on how to balance it all, working at home and still having a personal life. But then she also talks about her journey and how she's always been in the small business space, and the important role that small businesses play in the community. Man, I just thought it was a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very excited about this first, it's the second installment, but the first NBA series where we've actually brought on a guest. If you haven't caught the first one, which was about Kobe Bryant, definitely check that one out. But again, part one dropped today. Part two is going to be dropping on Friday. So definitely listen for that. And the vidcast will be dropping within a few hours as well. So again, if you enjoy that visual component, be on the lookout for that on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? We'd really appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. Show us some love. Thank you very much. Somebody said they're late, but
that's Gloria.
Doesn't matter. You're here with us. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So we're going to continue on. We had another milestone. I talked about the first milestone being our Focus for Success course. And then we had another milestone today. This was really our first kind of official speaking gig that we had, which was definitely, it was just an awesome opportunity and an awesome experience for us and some of our old coworkers from the old stomping grounds and the call center that we used to work at together. So very excited about that and really helping the team, giving them some tips and some action steps that they can take to develop their grit and their resilience. We know for sure from our experience, just a lot of change in life in general, but within that particular environment, change is happening all the time. And it was definitely a timely message that we were very happy and blessed to be able to pass along to the good people of the MAC, is what I call them, our Member Assist Center over there in Lake Mary. So we decided to really continue that conversation and kind of give a part two and talk about change and the fact that when change is hard, you need to start looking at some strategies and how you can view that differently and start to change some things up in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the conversation initially was focused a lot on resilience. And over these past couple of podcast episodes, we've been talking about grit and we've been talking about resilience, specifically those two, right? And so we really got into the nitty gritty of what it takes in order to build a resilient mindset. But for this, I think it's important for us to break down to our legacy leader community, like, how do you personally lead yourself through change? Like the minute that you are confronted with it, that the information is coming down, the communication is being disseminated. Like we all go through what they call the hooks curve, right? So we all go through this model of dealing with change, right? From the time that we first get the news all the way to acceptance, right? And that model specifically talks about the various steps along that journey, but it doesn't really get into the nitty gritty around how to lead yourself, right? How to lead yourself through that journey. And so that's what we're going to really be breaking down today is what are the steps, the tangible things that you can do when confronted with change in order to put yourself in the right mind, the right headspace, the right mindset to be able to effectively lead through change. Because before you can lead others, you have to lead yourself. Right? You have to be able to lead yourself. And so I'm really excited to get into the content today and kind of break that down.
Yeah. So let's do just that. So we know that change, again, it's a part of our lives. We're all going to go through it. How we deal with changes really often determines, is a determining factor and determines how successful we are in life. Sometimes, it could be gradual, the change. And because of that, it can be even easy, depending on your personality or just exactly what is changing around you and in your life. But other times, change is really hard and it could be overwhelming. It could be downright scary. This kind of change will have a severe impact and serious impact on our lives when we embrace it, right? So how do we do that? How do we embrace change, especially when we're talking about that really difficult or hard type of change in our life? Well, follow these 9 tips that we have for you. And we also have, as always, 3 action items for you to start putting into place today to help you embrace change and move forward in a more positive direction. I think the first thing that, we should focus on is the fact that make change normal. Like, it would help if you change your attitude about change in general. If you have this negative thoughts about it or negative connotation about change, then you're always going to find it difficult to deal with any type of change in your life. So we talk a lot about the thought process and really thinking about things in a different, more positive perspective and different light. If you fear even the smallest change, how do you think you're going to handle some of the biggest and most difficult changes in your life, especially when they're really hard, right? Mm-hmm. So start fostering a more positive attitude towards change and learn to look for it, to accept it, and maybe even be eager, for change in your life. Get used to embracing the easy changes in your life so that your mind is prepared for the hard ones when they come.
Yeah, I think what I love about this is when you're able to accept change or make change normal, the relationship with change, shifts, right? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is if we already come to grips with the fact that change is inevitable, the way that we approach it, the way that we anticipate it, our outlook towards it is a totally different energy. And we can be proactive in either leading the change or maximizing the existing situation before the change occurs, instead of living in denial that change is going to occur. And then when it inevitably happens, now we have to be reactive to what the outcome of that change is going to be. Right. When I think about this one specifically, I think about like at some point, and I know you guys have probably read this or seen this on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, right? Or somebody they'll throw out the meme that says you may not realize this, but at one point you and your friends went out to play, and that was the last time you guys ever played, and you didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Because like life happened and you moved on and things like that, right? And same is true like high school. At one point, people that you were high school friends with, maybe your click. Before y'all went off to college, there was a moment where it was the last time you guys hung out and you didn't even realize it was going to be the last time you hung out. So if you have a mindset where you're anticipating that change is going to occur, with the benefit of that hindsight now, how would you have changed your interactions in those moments? What would you have done differently? What would you have expressed differently? How would you have really maximized and internalized that experience, right? And so that's what comes to mind when I think about making change normal. If you can do that, then you start to appreciate the present in a much different way. And you can also be proactive in anticipating change so that you can drive it as opposed to being driven by it and having to react.
Yeah, I love that. Drive the change. Do not be driven by it.
So number 2, not changing is just as hard. Right. Whenever change gets hard or overwhelming, try to think about what would happen if you didn't change. Quite often, the pain of not changing outweighs the comfort of not trying to change. I think it's helpful for people to understand, whether it's in the workplace predominantly. I think that's one where a lot of times we do see change come down, and maybe we don't have the full picture. And we don't understand why. I think it's helpful to level set and understand that, nobody desires to implement change for the sake of just doing it. It is always done with an intent to improve over whatever the current situation or circumstances may be, right? So first you have to be able to acknowledge that grace. And then the second thing is, if the times are changing, if the circumstances are changing, and you're fighting that, you're resisting that, you want to stay rooted in where you're currently at, it doesn't mean you're absent of pain. The pain is going to occur one way or another. It's going to be difficult to adjust to new change, but it's also going to be difficult to fight against the environment and the circumstances, right? And so you have to choose what type of hard do you want. And ultimately, at the end of the day, between those two, staying the same and avoiding the change ends up being the more prolonged hard, because inevitably there's going to come a breaking point where you're going to either have to change, right, in order to adjust to the circumstances, or remove yourself from the situation. Like, think about it this way. This is the example that comes to mind. When Netflix started moving aggressively into digital and they started moving into streaming, right, there was a point in there where Blockbuster, right, was resistant to the change, right? And because for them, I don't see the value. Yeah, we're losing. Yeah, we're losing in terms of performance just a little bit, but people are still coming in. They're still renting movies. We still have this business model. We've been successful for a long time. Why do we need to change to your response to the changing environment, right? It's too hard for us to do that. We have to change our whole infrastructure. We have to change our whole operating model. Like, no, we're just going to wait this thing out, right? And so they avoided that hard of changing, right, and chose the hard of trying to stay the same, and inevitably ended up feeling the pain of having to shut down the business, right? So again, not changing is just as hard as changing, and honestly, it lasts a lot longer. So you might as well quickly adjust to changing and get through that growing pain so you can get to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So our third tip for you is to bring a friend along. If you're struggling with making a big change in your life, it really can help, right, to bring a friend or a few folks along with you for that ride. For example, maybe you haven't been able to change a more healthy lifestyle. It's always good, right, to have an accountability partner, to have people that maybe even going to the gym with or doing certain routines with, so that you're helping each other out through that change and through the difficult times that we all go through. You might want to see if any of your friends might also be struggling with a change, similar change. And again, can you guys buddy up, team up together, power up to help each other along? Doing it together might make things a little bit easier for you, for them, and will find yourself, again, accountable to each other, and just make things more enjoyable as well. Again, we have talked a number of times, and I think, as we can kind of refine some of our topics and focus, just realizing the power and importance of having a team and having people that are kind of your ride or dies and are going to be with you through business, through life, through the ups and downs, the changes that we all go through, and how important it is to not just be, an individual out there on an island all by yourself. We were not created to be alone. We were created for community. So bringing a friend along with you makes it that much more enjoyable. Sometimes it makes it even easier. And at the very least, you have an accountability partner say, hey, we need to step it up. These are things that we're trying to do. I see you slipping a little bit. How can I help you? How can I assist you? And continue to move on from there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's power in numbers.
Power in numbers.
All right. The fourth tip here. What can and can't you control? That's a really important question to ask yourself. If you're struggling because some sort of massive change is brewing in your life, in your organization, take some time to just reflect. Think about what aspects of the change that you can control and which aspects are out of your hands altogether. And once that is done, focus solely on the things that you have control over. This way, you aren't wasting your energy, and you are making sure that this life transition will go as smoothly as possible. I think that's just critically important in every situation, whether it's work, whether it's personal life, right? Understand what your controllables are, understand what is outside of your control, focus your energy intensely on your controllables, right? On what you can control. And then as the things that are outside of your control change, respond to the changing circumstances. It's as simple as that, right? If we spend a lot of energy on things that we have no influence over, it's not effective, right? It's not moving the needle. It's not changing anything about the circumstances. And two, it's draining, right? There's a palpable energy that can, is rejuvenating when you are putting your efforts towards something you can influence, and then you start to see the incremental change, no matter what the size or the pacing, right? Like, as long as you're seeing improvement, that is feeding in itself and helps you shift your mindset when it comes to the change process. So again, ask yourself, what can I control? What can I control? Make a list if you got to. And then the half that stuff you can't control, rip that thing off, ball it up, throw it out, and then focus on the other half of the list that you can't control and put all your energy and effort in that.
Yeah, I like the last word you said, energy, right? It's what you're focusing your calories on. And if you're expending calories and energy on things that you absolutely cannot control, you're going to end up just wearing yourself out. So think about what you can and cannot control. Number 5, a little bit more, practical, but keep a journal. Journaling is a wonderful way to deal with change, especially if you've struggled to deal with it in the past. This really allows you a safe place to get all your thoughts and fears out, put it down on paper. And you'll find that some of your trepidation really dissipates when those fears from your head are out of your head and now they're on paper. I think one of the really cool thing too is, as you're keeping this journal about change and things that you're going through, and if you're the praying type and a person of faith, man, put some prayers down and just, now you have a record, right? So you can go back. It could be weeks later, months later, maybe in a year later, if you've really gotten into that habit of consistently keeping a journal, and just see how things positively changed for you, how you were able to get through those moments, and how prayers were answered, how your life and other people's lives was affected. So just so many, again, positives about keeping a journal. And that first point, get it out of your head, get it out on paper. And if you need to, again, get those fears out there and get out of your way.
Yeah, no,
stop wasting energy on the things you cannot control. Absolutely.
Spot on. Yeah, no, I love the idea or the concept of keeping a journal, because I know in our earlier session today, when we were talking about resilience, we talked about the importance of being reflective, right? Being reflective as a leader, right? Being reflective about the day, about your goals, all of these things. So keeping a journal of change is a nice tool to be able to be reflective. You can go back and you can refer to, well, how was I feeling in the past about a certain change? Mm-hmm. What was the outcome, right? And using that almost as validation or encouragement to let you know that, hey, when you had these similar feelings, but we focus on our controllables, right? Mm-hmm. We focus on the positive of change. We embraced it. We focus on how we can be a driver of change instead of being driven. We got a desirable outcome. So these feelings, while, maybe somewhat justified, we know this is the formula or the recipe to be able to get through to the other side, right? Because I think sometimes when you're in the change and bogged down by it, it's hard to refer back to, again, just thinking, right, in the moment, and because of the emotions, it's hard to refer back to all the times where you had the same feeling and you won, right? Mm-hmm. Naturally, what we do is we tend to focus on when we had the feeling and we lost, right? And we use that as that kind of self-speak and that self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why you gotta hold yourself accountable. And going back to that journal is a really, really helpful tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, 100%. One time for my brother Xavier Raymond, watching us right now live on YouTube.
Hey.
So number 6, man, you just gotta trust yourself. A lot of the reason people struggle to change is that they don't believe in themselves. Number 1, put your faith in God, trust in God and the plan that He has for you, and then trust in yourself. Trust where you put your faith, trust in your experience and the things that you've done. And people just don't believe that they actually deserve good things and good change in their life. And they don't think that they can handle any sort of negative change. The small things, incremental, some of the good change that happens in my life, I can kind of handle that. But if it's going to be something negative or really challenging for me to deal with, again, people just often have that negative connotation and just thought about it. Work on boosting your self-esteem first, then you'll naturally be more open to change. Again, a lot of what we talk about has to do with those 4 aspects, but that mental piece, right? So we talk about physical, spiritual, emotional, but mentally focusing on your self-esteem, that emotional piece as well, how you feel about yourself, feeling positive about what you're doing, and how you react to the things that are coming at you and how you think about the things that are happening in your life. Again, when you do those things and you practice and you're more intentional about it, just naturally you'll be more open to change, and you find yourself more effective at being able to cope with change and deal with it more positively.
I love that. All right, tip number 7, your basic needs still matter. You've heard Jimmy and I hop on this soapbox plenty of times. We will die on this hill. It is important for you to sharpen your saw. And what inevitably happens a lot is when we start dealing with change and the pressure that comes with change, we expend our energy focusing on how we can deal with the change, and we don't have energy for anything else. That means, and I've seen folks do it, you stop working out, you stop reading, you stop getting the mental rest time, you maybe cut back on your sleep, you maybe miss meals, like all of these things, not realizing that all of those sacrifices that you're making are actually making you less effective at being able to effectively lead through the change.
Come on, brother, talk to
me. And so you have to prioritize your basic needs first. So when dealing with a big change or a life transition, don't forget to take care of yourself.
For real.
Some changes are so big that they're almost all consuming, but you can't forget about your most basic needs. Sleep, diet, exercise should not be tossed aside because you're too worried about change. And what I have actually found that works for me is the inverse. Actually, when I'm dealing with major change that requires me to maybe think creatively, I'm dealing with a weighty decision, and it falls on me to figure out how are we going to approach this, or is there something I'm not thinking about that could positively impact people's lives and their employment and retain people and all that stuff. That's when I put in more time in the gym, more time in meditation, more time in prayer, more time with family, right? Because the more I'm able to feed those basic needs and ensure that I am operating at peak capacity across all those areas, the better I am prepared to be able to make the right decisions and to think through things properly. So you have to prioritize your basic needs.
Yes. Amen to that. Gotta take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And in doing so, make a plan. Don't just willy-nilly try to take care of yourself and do all these other things and try to deal with change without having a solid plan in place. Change is scary, especially because it's unknown. Like, you may know the change that is coming, but like Devon said earlier, you may not know all the details, you may not know all the whys, and essentially you still don't know how that change is going to affect your life and the people around you. You might be comfortable in your life now, and you aren't sure what happens when things actually do start to change. So that sounds like you. Then make a plan. Creating a plan of action to deal with a specific change will make it easier for you to make that change when the time comes. So this is really all about preparation. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. Start thinking about the positive thoughts and how you can look at this change even before it comes. And as you prepare yourself for that, start thinking about, okay, what are some of the positives? What are some of the tough things that I can potentially deal with when this change comes? How should I feel? How do I want to think? How do I want to feel as I'm going through that change? If I'm a leader and I'm responsible for other people, how do I want to support them? So I'm thinking through all of these things, thinking about barriers, thinking about obstacles before they even come, not to worry about them, but just so that I'm prepared. And that's part of my plan as I move forward. So make a plan and you'll find yourself much, much more successful as you go through it.
Yeah, that's me responding to Alan when he was talking about taking control of change. I just thought that was a whole bar. Yeah, we got to be the driver's seat over the back seat any day.
Yep. Golden nuggets. There you go.
All right. And the last tip here is failure isn't the end. See, a lot of people find making a change hard because they fear failing. And this is because we've been taught, or like what we've been taught about failure is completely wrong. It's off base. Failure is not the end. It's simply a signal for you to try something different, right? You've heard us talk about this before. We have to start to identify or train ourselves to identify the difference between a roadblock and a rest stop, right? On our journey, what is a roadblock and what is a rest stop? And for whatever reason, a lot of times we associate when things do not go as planned, right, that is a roadblock. That's the end. The journey's over. And it's not. It's a rest stop. It's an opportunity to stop, to reconvene, to rethink, reorient yourself, come up with a new plan, find a detour, and then keep pressing forward on your journey. Failure is the stepping stone to success. It really is, because there's so much learning that can occur from failure, right? Failure is not this 4-letter word, right, that we've been taught to think it is. Again, it really is just another word, a synonym for learning. Right, for learning. And so we have to be able to train our minds that way, to understand that failure is not an end. Just because you were driving down, for some of my Central Florida folks, because I know there's just a lot of construction on I-4. Just because you're driving down I-4 and your exit is blocked, right? You can't get through. It's shut down. Like, do you just park the car in the middle of I-4 and it's like, oh, that's it. I'm not getting home. I'm just going to turn it back around. That's it. I failed. I failed to get home. I'm just going to wait here, figure it out, maybe go back to where I was. And I don't know, hopefully home will find me. No, not at all. Right. You say, okay, well, I need to take another route.
Mm-hmm.
And that route may require me to spend more time. It may require me to go down roads I've never gone down before. I may have to stop and check in with somebody else and, GPS it, or reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you guide me through this? I've never been this way before. Right. But we don't stop driving. And so we have to have that same mindset, right, on our road to whatever we desire to attain. Right. Failure is not the end at all.
Got a couple of questions coming in. I was only able to hear part of it. Is there a way for me to watch the whole episode? Absolutely. We're going live right now on YouTube, in our Facebook community, the Legacy Leader community, and on the Facebook page as well. So those videos will be there. And definitely, again, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Legacy and Leadership Podcast, go there and subscribe and hit that little bell, and you will always be alerted when new videos drop. So as soon as we're done with this will also feed into our YouTube channel. And then Xavier asked, what if change happens and you're not prepared? So good question. I think, as we're going through these different tips, even thinking about the last one, right, is have a plan. So generally speaking, it's fixing your mindset, really making those adjustments to your mindset overall on how you view change. Have a plan in place in general. How am I going to deal with any type of change in my life? What resources do I need? What group of people or individuals do I have in my life that I know are going to be able to help me to deal, to manage, and cope with that change? And then if things happen that were unexpected and you have some major change in your life, again, it's unexpected, so you weren't ready for that specifically, but you're ready for change. You have a positive mindset about change in general. So all of those things just make it easier, not necessarily easy, but easier to deal with change as you go through it.
Yeah, I would also say part of the plan has to be, part of the plan in that situation has to be saying, hey, what do I do when I run into something that I wasn't expecting? And it doesn't mean that you have to have it fully figured out, but you have to have some strategy around, like, what does, reconvening look like? So I go back to, football and like sports, right? When they hit the field, or when they're getting ready to hit the field, they have a whole game plan. Most offenses, they'll have like the first 20. Yep. I was going to say like 15 to 20 plays just scripted, right? Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to run. And then maybe 5 plays in, the defense shows a brand new look you've never seen before, right? Well, the offense doesn't say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. Let's just keep running what we do. They already know, hey, if you see anything out there that we did not practice or plan for, bro, call timeout. Don't put us in a bad position. Don't make a mistake. Don't make a turnover trying to force it. We dictate the circumstances or the circumstances in which we confront the change, right? We dictate that. So call timeout. Let's get back together with the right minds that can help us respond to the change in circumstances. So I would say a part of your plan has to be, who is in that huddle with you? Who are those individuals that you say, hey, I'm seeing something I've never seen before. Timeout. Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Pops. Hey, Gabriella. Right. I'm naming my people. Hey, let's get together. I don't know what the hell's going on out there. Did y'all see it? What should I do differently? This is what I saw. What did you see? What did you have you been here before? Right. It's that is a part of my personal plan. And so I would encourage our leaders, as you're thinking about change, right? That has to be a part of your plan as well, too, is realizing that you dictate the timing around how you confront some of these changes. And so don't be afraid to call time out, reconvene with people that you trust, right? And then re-strategize from there, and then go back out there and hit it once you have a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had a couple of questions come in, and by all means, legacy leaders, continue to drop some questions if you have them as we're going through these tips. This is number 9, so we're finished with the tips. We're going to get into the 3 action steps. But again, definitely, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you and be able to talk through those. My favorite quote. So I believe, heard this from Will Smith. I don't know if it's necessarily his quote, but ever since I heard it, I've been saying it, right? Like, if you stay ready, then you don't have to get ready. So everything that we just talked about is having that plan and making sure that you're preparing yourself for the inevitable. Change is going to happen. And I love what you just said, Yvonne, about having that team and knowing who those people are, and realizing it's okay to take that time out to converse, to seek wise counsel, to get with the people that you trust the most, that are going to be there with you and might actually be going through the change with you. And how can we, again, team up, work through this together, and buddy up together as we go through it, so that we're all successful in the end. All right. As promised, it is time for you to take action. And if you don't have a journal, maybe this is where you start, right? Get that piece of paper out, get that pad, get that pen, and really start to jot down these 3 steps that we have for you. The first thing that we're going to ask you to do is to define the change. Think about the change that you're struggling to make right now. What challenge do you have? What vices, is it that you're dealing with that you're trying to change, you want to change, but it's just been a really struggle? Clearly define what that is and be specific as possible about it, right? So we talked about having a plan earlier. We always talk about setting goals. You want to make sure that the goal itself is specific. So what is it that you're trying to attain, and what is it that you're trying to change? And then why? We're always going to get back to the why. Always going to get back to the why. Why do you want to change? List all the reasons that you want to make this change. Focus on the positives and list those things out. And what will this change improve in your life? How is your life going to change and improve as you go through these positive changes? And I would also encourage you, there's been situations where I've been coaching people and really trying to help them take that next step to really receive coaching and invest in themselves and invest in a coach. And as we're talking about the goals, we want to think about all the positives. But I also asked them, so, think about, we talked about kind of working out and stuff. So whatever that goal is for you from a physical perspective, but think about how you're going to look, how you're going to feel. Think about the new outfits you're going to purchase, right? So you were thinking about all the positive things, but then also think about what happens in 3 months, right? In 6 months from now, if you don't make these changes and you don't start to at least take those baby steps to get to that ultimate change and that ultimate goal. Think about how you're going to feel in 6 months. In the future, you're looking back, you realize you didn't take those steps, you didn't make those changes. How are you going to feel? How are the people around you going to feel if those things did not happen? And then switch back and start thinking about all the positive things that you're going to feel, all the positive contributions that you're going to have to the people that are around you, and the impact that you're going to have to the people around you in the most positive ways, and really, really focus on those things. Lastly, again, what if you don't change, right? It's those negative things, those negative outcomes. So you really want to think about all of those things and how will it impact the people that you love the most. So write those things down, define the change, be very specific about this one change that you're trying to make. Why do you want to do it? What are all the great things that are going to happen and all of the positives that you hope, right? And desire will happen when you make that change. And then what if I don't? If I don't do it, how is that going to impact me, and how is it going to impact the people that are closest to me? But those are your 3 action items. Again, that is something that you can do, not right now because we're still talking. We want to answer any questions that you may have, but as soon as this live is over, again, you can go do that now, or at least make it a point as soon as you wake up in the morning. Get that pen, get that pad, and start going through these things. Define the change. Why do you want to change? What are all the positives? What if you don't change? Feel it, think about it, smell it, taste it, really make it real and palatable for yourself so that you ensure I do not want to feel those feelings. That positive list, those positive thoughts, those positive feelings, that's what I want to feel when this change ultimately comes to fruition.
Love it, man. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
All right, legacy leaders, we still got about 5 people with us. Any questions that you have out there for us? As we go to the last slide, just some additional reading. Again, leaders are readers. So these are some books out there that you can look up. Emotional Agility, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. Again, it's about getting rid of that stinking thinking and thinking positively. Real Change, Switch, How to Change Things When Change is Hard. And then Elastic, Unlocking Your Brain's Ability to Embrace Change. If you need to take a screenshot of that, or again, come back and watch the replay and check out some of these books. Any other questions from our folks out there? As always, D, I appreciate you. This has been real. Definitely, again, for our legacy leaders out there, man, we appreciate you guys. Change can be hard, but if you take these 9 steps and then follow up with those 3 action items, I'm sure you'll find it over time more effective and just easier to be able to deal with change as things come at you. You'll feel more prepared. You'll feel more ready for the change that you know is coming, and then for the unexpected changes that, again, we know are going to happen in life. So super excited again about today. If you haven't listened to the latest episode of our Legacy and Leadership podcast, make sure that you do that. Episode number 31, which is...
We see you, Glory. We see you.
Oh.
Yeah, she dropped a question. We want to make sure we don't forget her. So I have one. Okay. So what if those around you aren't getting ready for the change? Ooh, that's a good one, right? You kind of feel a little like Chicken Little or Noah, if you want to go biblical reference, like, hey, it's going down, it's happening, it's coming. Y'all need to listen, right? So for me, one of the things that I've always tried to do in those situations when I feel like folks aren't necessarily properly prepared for change or preparing for change is I like to force the issue in terms of taking them through a thought exercise. So I try first and foremost to over communicate. If I know that the change is coming or I'm anticipating the change is coming, right? I try to over communicate it. And, we talked about like talking about your feelings around change. Usually what I try to do is I will try and take folks through a thought exercise using myself as the case study, right? So I will ask them for advice on how to navigate a change that I'm anticipating, right? That they may not be thinking about. Like the only soldier. Yeah. That they may not be thinking about, because what you'll find is instinctively the advice they give you is the advice they would give themselves. Right. So when I start to have the conversation around like, hey, man, I really think this change is going to happen. There's going to be a major impact. Like they're about to change how our organization is structured. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like how do you think I should handle that if that were to occur? Right. What should I be preparing for today? What should I be thinking about? Right. What should I think about if I'm going to have to communicate to other people about it? And by making it about me and them giving me advice, right, they start to go through that thought exercise. They start to give you the advice that they would actually give themselves, the things that they would do themselves. And it opens up the dialogue to discuss and to get them to start thinking, well, hey, what if the things that Devon is concerned about actually come to fruition? So that's always a really helpful way. And again, just being able to over communicate. And I think being transparent, for me, there's nothing wrong with over emphasizing the risk with change and then change coming and it being less impactful, right? There's a lot more risk in understating change or assuming it's not going to be as impactful And then when it happens, it turns out to be extremely impactful. And then people have to respond to that. So,
yeah, good word, man. Good advice. And just always asking questions. Is it they're just not getting ready, or their reasons? We talked about fear early on. Are there fears? Are there trepidations that they may have, when it comes to change? And maybe there's things that they've gone through in life that have them feeling that way. And not that you're necessarily going to counsel them, but as you ask questions, just trying to get a better understanding of why they feel the way that they do. And then hopefully, if you find that it's something that you've been pretty good at, or you are good at, you can lead by example and help them. And then again, using that kind of that case study model, I think is spot on. What are the questions? We got 4 folks I see that are still rocking with us. Hashtag Team Live.
Hey.
All right, legacy leaders. All right. As always, it has been real. Definitely appreciate you guys hanging out with us this evening for another session of Cold Brews and Convos. I'm about to finish mine with your L3G coaches, Coach Jimmy G Jr. and Devon Watts Jr. coming at you live from our Legacy Leader Facebook community and on YouTube as well. We hope that this was very useful for you, that it's added some value to you. Again, change is inevitable, but the more you're prepared, the more you think about it, the more you prepare yourself and you're intentional about how you're going to navigate through those situations, I'm sure the more confident you're going to be and the easier it is going to be moving forward. Let's see. Yes, we do our best. We do our best. So as always, legacy leaders, again, we appreciate you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. If you haven't checked out the newest episode, please do so. The vidcast will be dropping very, very soon. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so. Be on the lookout for part 2 of our NBA series. You're not going to want to miss that as well. Great guests dropping tons of golden nuggets along the way. So until next time, God bless y'all and stay encouraged.
Stay encouraged.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
You have just listened to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, hosted by Jimmy Gonzalez and Devon Watts. Thank you, and we hope that you live, lead, and leave a legacy worth remembering. Until next time.